Yeah, Carl, thank you very much for the warm words. Today I'm asked to talk about some post-market surveillance experience, and to make it quite clear, it's not a regulatory burden only. Yeah, we have some burdensome regulatory requirements in terms of post-market surveillance of medical devices and IVD devices, so the manufacturer, but the manufacturer may take the chance to create valuable data. And therefore, the manufacturer may vary its strategy of applying the available, so to speak, state-of-the-art methods throughout the product lifecycle, but keeping and adjust the different questions of concern, data sources and methods. The manufacturer is able to increase the knowledge about its device within the post-market phase. And this session will provide an idea of a dynamic post-market surveillance, so it's not a regulatory burden only. Just one slide to Keymkr and to my person. So Keymkr is an company providing engineering services for medical device manufacturers and IVD manufacturers. Our portfolio, we take care about the compliance engineering following the standards and regulations. We create technical documentations for CE mark. We support the manufacturers with regulatory affairs support for international markets, and we run an own accredited product test lab for safety and performance tests. My name is Werner Knopp. I'm one of the manufacturing managing directors at Keymkr, and I'm a Keymkr since 2015. So, what is the regulatory burden of post-market surveillance? The burden lays down in the MDR, Article 83 and 88.6, and the Annex 3. Don't worry, I will not dive into the articles and into the annex. It should be well known right now. The MDR is accompanied by some MDCG guidance documents. To be concrete, published end of last year and beginning of this year. One is about the guidance on periodic safety update reports, and the second is some Q&A document on vigilance terms and concepts. And there's another very interesting document. It's the CEN ISO Technical Report 2416, published in 2020, and it is worth to have a look into that technical report, and I will refer the content of this technical report within this presentation a couple of times. So, what are the post-market surveillance dependencies? Post-market surveillance interacts pretty close to the clinical evaluation, to have the clinical aspects, the application aspects of the device, and it interacts with a risk analysis. And the post-market surveillance provides, so to speak, and supports the evaluation, and the risk-benefit ratio discussion. And so it's pretty close by, and what we can see here is that post-market surveillance is not a standalone process. It interacts. It is not a one man or one department show. There are many roles and departments affected. We will have a look at these. Post-market surveillance is embedded into the complete process and documentation landscape of the manufacturer and the product documentation. And it's an almost never-ending story. So it begins even during the development phase of a new device, and it comes to an end once no device is on the market anymore. So long before end of production, long after end of production. Other processes and aspects are affected as well. So post-market surveillance may give an input to design development, cover some regulatory concerns, may set up improvements, and come up from marketing and sales, and may support marketing and sales. So the question is, what is a regulatory burden on one hand, and how can it help the manufacturers to increase or to take benefit of the product post-market surveillance in order to get better results, to improve the device, or to ensure a good benefit risk ratio. So what I'd like to give here is an example of the overall goals of improving the post-market surveillance process. On one hand, the manufacturer is interested in the effectiveness. So the burden of regulatory requirements needs to be fulfilled, hopefully with minimum effort. On the other hand, I'd like to have a high efficiency, so we'd like to get better and more useful results, so that the cost-effort ratio is quite nice. And for that, I'd like to propose the following steps. First of all, I'd like to show some methods of post-market surveillance activities and methods throughout the product life cycle. Then we need to establish some goals for a dedicated device. We choose some methods, and at the end, I will show you some key success factors, since post-market surveillance is not a one-man show, as I said. By the way, regarding the establishing of goals, consider post-market surveillance not as static, it is dynamic. And you may find some questions within the technical report 2416, which I mentioned some slides before. There are questions formulated which may help to define the objectives of the current post-market surveillance, which is, to be honest, device specific. So depending on the portfolio of the manufacturer, you as manufacturer, you have a different portfolio, you have different risk classes, you have different devices, single-use, reusable, invasive, non-invasive, active, non-active, whatever, completely different. And the devices are typically placed on the market for a different long time. So you have quite new devices coming from new development, or some old legacy devices which are unchanged for 10, 20, 50 years, something like that. And for all these devices and for the entire portfolio, you need to perform the post-market surveillance. And you can put all the devices in one pot, which is not very wise, since you cannot gain, you just waste effort, and you cannot gain new information which may help you to improve your business. So establish goals at the beginning, formulate some objectives, set up the post-market surveillance with some concrete device-specific questions. Are there any misuse occurred? what is the long-term or mid-term effect of the clinical use? Are there any use errors? All quite good questions which may help to focus on post-market surveillance. And what that can look like, we can have it in here. So we have the table in here. We have the different product phases, life cycle phases. We have the market entry phase. We have the growing phase, the maturity phase, and the saturation phase, which is followed by the pre-entry of the success of the device, so to speak. And we have some interests regarding the specific device we look at, for instance. At the market entry phase, we like to have some information regarding the reliability of the device. So is it stable in the clinical use, for instance? Does it work? Do we have some failures, some component defects or software errors, something like that? So this is the interest of reliability. Placing new device on the market within the market entry phase, we might have some innovative functions implemented, and we may be interested in the acceptance of the new functions, change the graphical user interface, different interfaces to connect the different devices, something like that. Or we may be interested in use errors which are not occurred during all the efforts we made during the design development. And looking at the use errors, this means not that we are not doing the formative and summative evaluation during usability engineering. Yeah. So within the growing phase of the device, we might still be interested in reliability, the acceptance of functions, general functions, not only the innovative functions, for instance, the use errors, some clinical results, incidents or adverse events, and the operational lifetime of consumables, for instance. Yeah, it's not all the bullet points are not claim completeness here. These are just selected interests here. So during the maturity phase, we might look into new technologies which are already placed on the market for our clinical application. We look for improvements in the application. So the application might, so the clinical application might still be the same, but the technologies have changed in the meantime or have been improved. And this is what we need to look at as an input for upcoming developments. So what is the operational lifetime for complex products within the IEC 60601? We need to declare the lifetimes of device. Many manufacturers say, hey, it's 10 years. Okay, but are there any valid data? Yeah, and this is what we can have look at during post-market surveillance as well. So reliability and incidents here are quite normal to have a look at. Yeah, and within the saturation phase and pre-entry phase, we are looking at competing technologies for some clinical aspects, and probably some applications have been replaced. Open surgery versus minimal invasive surgery, for instance. And these are some interests, just a few examples over the product life cycle. And what I'd like to do is right now here to put some methods how we can gain the information about the interests there, And as you can see, I have some different colored frames here, a red one and a green one. The red one is deemed to be a reactive method, and the green one is deemed to be a proactive method. Yeah. So for reliability information, we can have a look at our guarantee information coming from the complaint process. We can have a look how many components, PCB boards, sensors, whatever, have we delivered for free because this component failed within the market. And this gives a good idea with regards to the design stability of the device. For use errors, for instance, some manufacturers initiate a controlled market release. So what is a controlled market release? Once the development is done and the CE mark, so GSPR is fulfilled and DOC is issued, CE mark is clear, manufacturer may introduce or initiate a controlled market release. That means that the manufacturer provides or sell, so to speak, the device to a small number of users, hospitals, doctors, whatever, and have a close monitoring on the use of the device. This is not what the manufacturer needs to do within or during development with regards to usability and clinical trials and so on. This is just a controlled market release of a CE mark device, regular CE mark device. And the benefit is that we have a small user group where we have a close monitoring of the use of the device to consider any use errors, any technical issues, something like that. So for the growth phase, we have other methods we may use. So for reliability, we have still the guarantee information review, the acceptance of functions. We may have we may initiate a training and create some training feedback on the functions. For clinical results, we may initiate a PMCF study, which is also a post-market surveillance method to gain some data. Incidents and adverse events. It is most likely the database research of the MDA, of the FDA MORD database or BfArM database, or in future Eudamate once it will be ready, or Swissmedic, MHRA, something like that. And for the operational lifetime, we may initiate a study or a questionnaire. This is an appropriate method to receive some information on the interest of the lifetime of consumables. What is how long can a HF electrode be used? How long can a catheter being indwelled, something like that. And it's a proper method, which is, by the way, mentioned in the technical report 24/460. For the maturity phase, having a look at the new technology. So what are the competitors? What are technology studies? Probably we need to initiate a technology study. Some improvement in application, what is the training feedback on user? PMCF study can be used as well. Lifetime information, guarantee and repair information. So once the device is outside the guarantee time, it's the repair information. Reliability, we can have a look at the spare part sales. and incidents and adverse events database research. Within the saturation phase of the device, the end of lifetime, so to speak, we need to have a closer look on the competitors and what is state of the art. We need to do some patent analysis, for instance. We need some benchmark testing. And regarding the competing applications, we need to have a scientific literature review or a customer workshop. So different aspects for during the different phase of product life cycle, which all may be used for improving PMS. These are some considerations which can be selected. Before I select my method and my interest for a dedicated device, I'd like to have another focus on the social media. By the way, it's throughout the entire life cycle. It's reactive. And to be honest, you should have a look at the social media, but the information should be considered carefully. And what I'd like to show you here is that we may be different, or we need to differentiate regarding the interest and the method in terms of the application, which is into the direction of clinical evaluation, and the design indicated by a blue button, which is into the direction of the risk management, so technical goals. So reliability here and guarantee information is more or less, or we indicated is it's a question of design and it's a technical goal, while use errors results from monitoring of controlled marketing release may give you information in terms of the application. It means clinical benefit or design. Yeah, so we indicated the different methods with different colors or for the both colors design or application. Okay, let's jump to a dedicated device. We have a predicate device. Whatever it is, it's doesn't matter. That device have a well-known application. So having the product life cycle graph taken, the application is well known, so it's almost in the maturity phase. Yeah. The use of the clinical use is pretty good and it's well described in literature, and this device and the generations before are very long known. During a development project, this predicate device got a new feature and a new design. For instance, there's a new zip SOP and to enable the combination of a system connection here. So while the application is quite well known, the design and the interface to the system extension is pretty new here. And this device might be run as standalone device, but it can be combined with a system extension, which is newer in terms of the application and in terms of the design. And what the question is for the device having the points here on the product life cycle curve, what is interested for me as manufacturer for these devices on my specific life cycle. And going back to the slide before here, we may take the growing phase here and the maturity phase and check what is applicable for my device here. So I have in terms of the design, so technical aspects, it's in the growth phase. These are all the bullet points and methods from the slides before. And for my dedicated device, I'm interested in the reliability within the growth phase, acceptance of functions, and for instance, the operational lifetime of consumables. And for the application, which is well known, which is almost at the top of the product life cycle phase, I don't care right now about the competitor studies or technology studies, for instance, depending on my specific device and my knowledge about the market. But I'm interested in the improvement in application. So what is the user training feedback in the combination, for instance, with a new application? Yeah, and probably I have some open questions regarding the clinical effect, and I'd like to initiate a PMCF study. And of course, to be honest, I would go for the database research here for FDA MOD and BfArM to have that state of the art must have what's the notified bodies almost expect. So selecting some proper interests and using some proper methods, I may get better and more useful results. Regarding the incidence and database research, how many of you get really new information from database research? Almost all data which are in the FDA MOD database or BfArM database are already known at the manufacturer side for the own products. For similar products or equivalent devices of other manufacturers, it's a quite different answer. But for the own devices, all information which are in the FDA MOD database or BfArM database, these information should be already available. So let's have a look at the incidence in the database research. What I'd like to underline here is that the database search strategy and the focus may vary throughout the life cycle. And during the market entry, coming from the product design development process, there's typically an intermediate database research process and database research. The focus should be on recently launched devices only and not on pretty old ones. We look at the motor function of the device and injury and death. And we claim that research of a predicate and similar device here is not quite necessary. It changes within the other phases, so within the growing phase and maturity phase. We have a regular database research coming from the PMS process, typically. Regarding the own devices, the search strategy should be as specific as possible. So use your item numbers for the FDA MOD database and just search for that model number. If you have, or if you take more common search terms, it's a mess, and you will end up in a mess. If you have some general terms like adapter or tube or something like that, forget it. You will run out of any information. Be as specific as possible for your own devices, and for the predicate device or simulated device, which should be aligned with a clinical evaluation report for 510(k) predicate device, or within the device description within Annex 2 of MDR. Take the search terms as precise as practical. So it means manufacturer, device name, product code, whatever. And have a look at the injury and death. To be honest, the FDA MOD database, shit in, shit out. We made some database researches, and we put a lot of efforts within the consistency of the data sets, and it's a mess. And right now we propose to take the databases as it is, or as they are, and to summarize those. And we do not aggregate and put any more efforts into the database in order to get to combine and to analyze and to report the issues. It will end up in a mess. To give you some quantities, we had a project where we have 20 different post-market surveillance plans, roughly 1,000 search terms throughout the databases BfArM and FDA MOD, which end up in more than 36,000 data sets, records. And due to all the reprocessing, though, is the observation period correct? If it's the correct device, it's the predicate device or other device. We got rid of 90% of the devices, and what we did here is we waste a lot of time and money. So have as precise search term as possible, and take it only as a regulatory burden to search the FDA databases, incident databases, and use other methods and interests to support your post-market surveillance. This is the message about the database research here. By the way, within the technical report 2416, with regards to the database research, there's a note: the ability to rely on such information as evidence of safety and performance is limited. This is burned into my head, and I can make a check on that. It's a database and it's not that good. Although the FDA MOD database is even better than the BfArM database, for instance, because it's event-based and not issue-based. Okay, as I said, regarding the effectiveness, in order to fulfill regulatory requirements with minimum effort, just take the wise search terms as precise as possible and put it to the database research and take the results as they are. Regarding the key success factors, as I said, we have some technical goals and some application-based goals, and it's not a one-man show. A lot of roles are affected, give some input or receive some results and output to update its documentation. Development engineer can verify whether or not the design is robust within the use. The risk manager can verify whether or not the severity or probability assumption is correct and the risk assessment is correct. Sales can use both the technical goals and application-based goals for sales activities. Clinical manager can receive information to support the clinical evidence of the device. And so usability can be supported, product manager service. So there are some roles for sure left, but PMS is not a standalone and process and one-man show. It is important that you as manufacturer clarify that everybody is on board, everybody gives its input and receives its output. So coming to the end, I'd like to summarize as follows. Post-market surveillance is more than database research. Organize your data and its sources. The methods I showed are not complete. I didn't show the complaint process. I didn't show trade shows. I didn't show any congresses and so on. So where keep the track of information as close as possible and declare all your aspects as post-market according to the technical report 2460. Yeah, so the user feedback during a congress or trade show or something like that, it's a proper method. So put it into your concerns of post-market surveillance activities. Write it down, do a good job here, and ensure that all the information you got from these sources are transferred into the post-market surveillance activities and documentations. Ensure comparability. Here, for instance, trend reporting or complaint reporting. Clarify the intervals where you have a look at the data, monthly basis, quarterly, biannual, annual, whatever, and ensure the comparability in regards of installed base, sold items per period, something like that. It depends, and it may depend and may vary throughout the entire product portfolio of each manufacturer, but this is a good job to have a different product post-market surveillance plan for each particular device. Strengthen your internal data, so the real-world information, as I said, take the information which the salesman or sales rep receives from the user and put it into the post-market surveillance activity. Trust their own data more than foreign data. As I said, FDA MORD database, it's state of the art, the research, yeah, but the use as evidence for safety and performance is limited. Initiate a post-market clinical follow-up study. Initiate a questionnaire. Go into a workshop with a customer or with a user. It's even more profitable and more effective. Apply specific post-market surveillance strategies and objectives throughout the product lifecycle. And please consider post-market surveillance as a chance, not as a burden, in order to improve the R&D input for innovation. To have good and better products on hand. I'd like to thank you for your attention. This was me, Werner Knopp from Keymkr, and if you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you very much, Werner. It's been a true pleasure to hear you talk about this. I will go light on my database research in the future. I will go light when it comes to social media studies, and I will pay more attention to the in-house information. Let me ask you, is there any particular information source that you consider being consistently undervalued by medical device manufacturers? Do these manufacturers sit on a gold mine without knowing about it?
So from my point of view, many medical device manufacturers are focused on reactive data. So they have a look at the database research. They look at the complaint data, at the kappa data, for instance. But the proactive methods and proactive concerns are undervalued from my point of view.
I see. At several occasions, you mentioned the ISO 2416 here. If I don't have it, should I buy it?
Yes.
That's short and sweet. Well, thank you very much, Werner. I hope to see you again on the show. Thank you for bringing these insights into post-market surveillance. Participants, all of you, please don't hesitate to connect with Werner on LinkedIn. If you have particular questions, ask them in the chat or contact him personally. This is going to be your go-to guy in the future for post-market surveillance questions. He's been around, he's done it, and you could benefit from his experience. Thank you very much, Werner.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.